your seat yet, now's your time. You want to hear my first word? So, ketchup. Ever think about how the ketchup in your fridge was born? Exactly how did it turn from tomatoes and vinegar and whatever else is in ketchup into ketchup? How many people were involved with the creation of this rather unassuming bottle in the fridge? Did the tomato farmer see any of the $3 I paid for it? How far did it travel to get to my grocery store, or my food pantry, or my farmer's market, or my restaurant? What policies ensured it was safe for me to eat? All food is born of the earth, right? But who decides what the earth should birth in the first place? Or when? Or how? Our food system. One way to think of a food system is the journey food takes before it gets to us. Food can travel straight from the ground to our mouths if we get it from, say, an orchard or a container in our windowsill or a neighborhood roadside farm stand. Or it might be combined with other foods to create something new, like jam or a loaf of bread or ketchup. Maybe we prepare our own meals, or maybe most of our food is prepared for us by our school or business or a big food processing company. If it's not eaten in time, it could return to the earth as compost to produce more nourishing food. Or in the very worst and all too common cases, it gets tossed into the trash to eventually produce harmful gases. But that's another story. Tonight, we will learn about some of the different people and networks that make up our local food system, how powerful our part is in it, and why we should eat and care. Good evening and welcome. I'm Julia, part of the Food Fight planning crew. Green Beverly and our many partners have worked hard to design an evening that we hope leaves you, at the very least, more curious about the food you eat. You will hear from apples and students and experts from literally fields in our community. And as always, we've got a Q&A panel at the end, so save your questions. Big thanks to all who are here as participants tonight, and big thanks to all of you who are in the audience who made the effort to come out on a weeknight. Free dinner and desserts in the back for anyone who's hungry, if there's any left. By the end of tonight, we'll have learned a lot, but we'll only have scratched the surface. For this reason, we've got volunteers with note-taking supplies in the aisles. Just catch their attention, and they'll get you what you need. We've also created a colorful bookmark with a QR code to a website that highlights tonight's topics, including the recording of this performance. Thanks, BevCam. The website will also contain some resources not covered tonight, so please tuck one of these bookmarks into your pocket and explore it when you have more time. It is our gift to you. We would like to thank the beautiful and historic Cabot Theater for hosting Food Fight, our fourth community conversations event on this stage. We appreciate, We appreciate the Cabot for so many reasons, but their sustainable practices are worth calling out. Plastic water bottles have been replaced by an in-house filtered water system, which is free just for tonight, by the way, if you brought your own reusable water bottle. Tonight's food containers are as compostable as your food scraps. We have 3 waste stations, 2 collecting actual waste, but all of them collecting compost. And volunteers are at each waste station to help you properly dispose of your waste. Please be aware, I've been asked to tell you, of the emergency exits located on both sides of the theater. You've probably noticed the booths in the foyer and the back platform. These folks represent a few of the many contributors to our vibrant local food system. Another prominent entity worth mentioning is the Beverly Farmers Market, who has supported Green Beverly from our earliest days. Yeah. Farmers markets are an important part of the interconnected web of a healthy food system, providing nutritious food, of course, but also strengthening the local economy as well as psychological, emotional, and social fabric of a community. A message we'll hear again and again tonight. A quick word about the raffle. Lily and Nina, super cool BHS juniors, decided to create a raffle to support Green Beverly as part of their DECA Club project. They've collected great stuff from many local businesses, but a late-stage donation of a car charger from LeGrand didn't make it into the pre-show slides, so I would like to mention that now. Very exciting. Lily and Nina will announce the winners later in our program. And let us briefly reflect in honor of those who have walked this land before us, as well as those who come later, for whom we make today's decisions. It's appropriate to take a moment to express our gratitude for and acknowledgement of the ancestral sovereignty of the Indigenous people of Beverly and their descendants. We at Green Beverly declare responsibility for a collaborative stewardship of our lands, a message informed and inspired by the first people of the Namkiag and Pawtucket bands of the Massachusetts tribe, for whom our Commonwealth derives its name, and we intend to respectfully and deliberately engage and involve Indigenous people still living in our community. So, as you experience our show, consider how food works into your life and how it may or may not connect you to your community or even yourself. Consider who you might turn to for answers to your questions and what you might want to do with what you learn. I'm going to give you a heads up about the opening video. It's the heaviest part of our show. Hang in with us. It'll get lighter real quick. Thanks for being here, everybody. Who's ready for a food fight?
How much do we really pay for what we eat? While our food might appear to be cheap, we actually pay for it many times over. First, unhealthy diets generate a massive health bill. 70 to 90% of healthcare costs are driven by chronic illnesses, most of which are diet-related, like diabetes and heart disease. Second, keeping food cheap means keeping labor costs down. This means poverty wages and inadequate worker safety and protection, making food and agriculture the most dangerous sector in the economy. Third, the environmental cost of how we produce our food is immeasurable. Biodiversity loss alone costs 3% of global GDP per year. And when we pollute our environment with pesticides, fertilizers, and antibiotics, we're not only destabilizing ecosystems, we're putting our own health at risk. And the costs don't stop there. A huge amount of public funding is used to keep the system in place. So low cost is really just displaced cost. Cheap food is actually very expensive for people on the planet and keeps us locked into an unhealthy and unsustainable food system. But what if healthy food was subsidized instead of unhealthy food? What if food prices covered the cost of safe jobs and fair wages? What if we paid what it costs to protect the environment today, rather than passing on a larger bill to future generations? What if we shifted from a low-cost to a true-cost food system?
My own apple stand. This is gonna be epic. Oh, hey, you guys. Oh, hey, Granny Smith buddy.
Hi.
I'm sorry. Is there something the matter? You don't look so good.
I'm just really tired. You don't want to hear what I've been through.
I'm sorry, like what?
I've been on a truck for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. As a matter of fact, I think I might even hurl.
Whoa. Okay. I'm kind of confused. Why would you be on a truck for thousands of miles?
All apples are raised in Washington State, grown there.
Okay, but I just came from around the corner. Sorry to tell you.
What? Oh, geez, that is not fair. That is not fair. How come you got here so quick?
Well, I came from a local farm just up the road. I was picked this morning.
What? You were?
Yeah. And like my orchard grower is so talented. He's just up the road and like just around the corner. And he's so good at growing apples, especially macoons, because can we just all agree that macoons are everyone's favorite, right?
My farmer says Granny Smiths are the best.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, nothing at all, nothing. I just wish I hadn't been on a truck for thousands of miles.
Well, okay, don't be hard on yourself. You're still an apple. And apples are so much healthier and frankly yummier, I think, than something you would find crunchy out of a bag, right? The problem is, you were on a truck from, I don't know, like for how long, right? Thousands and thousands of miles, and that's a lot of fossil fuel. And if someone goes and buys you, Granny Smith, that money, I don't know where it goes, to some corporation, who knows where.
You mean the local economy doesn't get anything?
Not at all. Not really.
I feel like an interloper.
Hey, don't be hard on yourself. Again, it's not you. It's the way that you were farmed and then brought here. I mean, I could have been put in a cold, dark chamber if my farmer wanted me to be for spring or for winter. Like, that's how you store apples, so you never know.
Wow, some apples have all the luck. Where did you even come from?
From Farmer Dave's in Drake, Mass.
What? Up Lowell way?
Yeah, and he's got this great CSA. He almost put me in the CSA box, you know, community supported agriculture, but at the last minute he just decided to bring me here to this market.
Wow. I wasn't grown on a lovey-dovey farm like that. Nobody cared about my feelings.
Your feelings as an apple?
My feelings as an apple. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be kept on a truck for thousands and thousands of miles. Nobody told me I was beautiful. Nobody sang to me. Nobody told me stories.
Okay, Farmer Dave is great. He didn't tell me any stories though, but I guess he could.
I just wish I understood the whole picture. What's the difference between a local apple like you and a world traveler like me?
Other than I'm super pretty, well, we have...
Ooh la la.
We actually have someone who can answer all of that, and she's amazing. Her name is Jennifer Hashley, and she's from New Entry Farm right here in Beverly, and she's going to educate us on the food system. Do you want to welcome her?
Sure, Jennifer!
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Jennifer Hashley, and I'm the director of the New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, and we're located right here in Beverly, Massachusetts at Moraine Farm across from the airport. Our mission is here. We're basically a beginning farmer training program, so our mission is to train new farmers and to make sure that we're encouraging resilient farming practices and that we're facilitating access to local food and farm products and building strong networks around that. And we really envision thriving farm communities in Massachusetts. So we have some information here at the tables. You've all enjoyed some of the food from our farm products in your dinner tonight. The cabbage, carrots, potatoes, and onions came from the farmers in our program, so they did not travel as far as the apples that we just learned from. So my job tonight is to tell you a little bit about what, we keep mentioning this word, food system. And so just wanted to give you a little context to what are we talking about when we talk about our local food system, or even the international and global food system that we're all part of. So I love this graphic. You can see the elements. Obviously, we're talking about the farm and where food is grown and how it's produced. One of the interesting parts about it is it needs to be grown by people who are really skilled and knowledgeable about how to bring forth this wonderful food that we eat from the soil. So the farmers are part of the food system. The soil, the plants, the animals, the water, the clean air, all of that is part of it. We as consumers are part of that economic system. We purchase and our choices matter in the kinds of systems that farmers are choosing. And then the political system that we know about as well. Our Farm Bill dictates how food is grown, what foods are incentivized, how practices are incentivized. There's the demand side of things, and then there's the biological cycling of waste. So when you think about all those things, this is all part of the system from seed to fork back to the earth. So when we think about our local food shed, this is another word sometimes people will use. We talk about food system, some other people call it food shed. You can think about our local geography from like where is the food going, how does it travel there, where does the land come from? In Greater Boston, this is a picture of what we might think of as our Greater Boston Regional Food Shed. And you know, some people say, oh, is it local if it comes from 25 miles or 100 miles or 400 miles? People define that in different ways. One of the interesting things when you look at this map about our Greater Boston Regional Food Shed is half of it is the ocean. So a lot of times we don't even consider seafood or fisheries in the whole food system conversation, but they're a really important part of the food system here in Massachusetts. Other words, sustainability, we hear that a lot in relationship to resilient growing practices, regenerative agriculture, sustainability. What does that mean? So these are some other things. A lot of times it's kind of the intersection of people, planet, and profits, or there's some other nested dependencies model of like the economy, the society, the environment. All of those things, they interact in that whole food system concept, and they're all equally important. We talk about these other, like I said before, regenerative ag terms. Well, what does that mean? It's the different kinds of growing practices that farmers can use. You know, are we regenerating the resources that we're using to produce food? Are we investing in the soil? Are we maintaining biodiversity? Are we keeping our waters clean and pure? Are we sequestering carbon? And are we paying our farmers right livelihood so that they can continue to do this important work? Are they paying their workers well? From bringing it, you know, planting into the seeds to harvesting to getting it to your plate. All these things are important practices and things like that. When we talk about food security, you know, a lot of us in this room may be privileged to be able to have never been hungry before, but many of our fellow citizens are facing food insecurity. They may be struggling to know where their next meal is coming from. So thinking about, are we secure in our food? Is our food system safe? As Julia mentioned, are the laws there to protect that we're eating nutritious food? And do we have the right to choose the kind of foods that we want to eat and receive it how we would like to think about it? So all those pieces tie into the concept of food security. And then people also use the term food sovereignty as well, and this is a nice definition. I know I have limited time, so I won't read it to you, but it's there. It's basically the right of people to choose their healthy and culturally appropriate food. And so when we talk about, well, okay, this is our food system, but who really benefits from this from an economic perspective? When you as a consumer vote with your fork and you purchase food, how much of that goes to the farmer actually? It's a very small percentage, about 9.1 cents of your dollar actually goes to the farmer. The rest of your food dollar goes to food processing, packaging, transportation, wholesale marketers and distributors, the retail trade, food service, energy, finance, all of these things. And I think this other graphic over here to the right is interesting when you think about where your food dollar goes if you're eating it at home. Is certainly better for the farmer, 24.1 cents, versus if you're eating it away from home dollars, so 3.1 cents when you add up like the marketing share of all these pieces that take it from the farmer at the farm gate to your plate. So if you want to make an impact thinking about how you can buy that food directly from farmers and cook it yourselves, a lot more of that share will go directly in the farmer's pocket. And why is this important? Here in New England, we have an aging farmer population. So thinking about who's going to grow the food, and when farmers don't have successors identified to be taking over their land, what happens to that land? I think we know it all too well. It gets sold to potentially non-farming uses, for housing developments, for other things, and that land is lost permanently for agriculture. So when we're thinking about aging farmers who may not have identified successors to come after them, We have a lot of land across the country that is at risk of changing hands, 1.4 million acres of farmland in New England alone. And so we need a lot of new farmers to think about how we're going to grow our food in the future if we want to be more food secure, since we rely on this global food system. And it's really challenging. If you're a new farmer, like we work with at New Entry, a lot of farmers are really trying to figure out, how do I get access to land? Or even existing farmers who want to expand their operations. Is it available? Is it appropriate? Is it accessible, affordable? Do they have security in their land? And is it equitably distributed? And we have great partners in the room like Greenbelt who are working to make sure that land stays permanently protected in agriculture for future generations. But this is a real challenge here in the Northeast. The good news is when consumers are aware of all these things, they really want to demand local food. So they're interested. We have a lot of demand. Local food sales were valued at $9 billion in 2020, and that is a little bit down from 2017, but it's up from 2015. We have a lot of direct-to-consumer sales in Massachusetts. People buy their food from farmers markets and farm stands and community-supported agriculture programs. That is all good for the farmers. And the local food movement has driven that. You can see the different places where folks can do that on all these different centers here, and the percentage of direct-to-farm sales over time, how that breaks out. So some of the benefits of buying local and keeping your food dollars in our local economy are that farmers earn more money and they can stay in business, pay their workers well. That money circulates here in our local economy. And then our economies grow, we provide more jobs, and communities become healthier. A lot of the places where you buy your food direct from farmers end up becoming social and community hubs where you can interact with other people and learn how your food is grown and feel like you're part of something that's contributing to your well-being. And demand is growing, but we really don't have a lot of self-sufficiency here in New England when you think about what we consume and what is actually produced here. So that's kind of the mismatch. We produce a lot of dairy, maybe a third of our vegetables, but most of that's potatoes from Maine. Very little of our fruit, which is why our apple has come from so far away. And very little of our grains and pulses or animal proteins. So I don't know if those of you are familiar with the New England Food Vision. There's been a vision put out, can we grow 50% of our food by 2060? And what would it take to do that? What would the land transformation look like? What would our consumer habits need to be? So there's a lot you can do, and tonight we want to fill you with action items that you can take away with you tonight and think about your role in the food system and other things that you can be doing moving forward. So hopefully you can eat more locally, buy more locally, avoid, that food that you do bring home, that you buy, try not to waste it. Farmers worked so hard to grow it and to get it to you, making sure that you're using it all and eating it on time, and if you can't, composting it to bring it back to the soil. Grow your own food, volunteer for groups like you'll meet tonight, get involved in policy, which we'll hear about at the end, help keep farmland open, stay informed like you're doing this evening, and support the food system. So thank you all so much, and I will pass it to the next speaker.
Jennifer Ashley really knows her stuff, but I'm wondering how to find a local farm. Is there a list somewhere?
Lucky for you, we've got a QR code that leads right to the Massachusetts Farm website. That's where you'll find a list of local farms.
Oh great, that makes it easy. Where can I get that QR code?
After the last speaker, we will show you where you can find it.
That makes it easy. Thank you.
What about when I go have a burger with my family at a Beverly restaurant? How do I know if it's locally sourced? Well, you can just ask the server. Great idea, but if they say it's local, I want to know how local. My burger meat could come from Pennsylvania, not Massachusetts, you never know. Again, just ask. Your server will likely know or be able to ask their chef. The more people ask, the more they know their customers care about local. Okay, great, I'll ask, and I'll be nice about it. Have fun with it.
Okay, who's next?
Well, we actually have 2 farmers here tonight.
Wow, I've been waiting to hear from the source.
Yeah, so we're going to hear from Anna Pierce-Slive and Cedric White from Revival Road Farm in Beverly.
Wow, I'm gonna have big time FOMO.
FOMO? About what?
About the apple mommy and daddy I could have had.
Okay, I think you're going to be fine. How about we welcome Anna and Cedric?
All right.
Good evening. My name is Cedric White, and I am one of the co-owners of Revival Road Farm. Revival Road Farm is a regenerative, reparative enterprise here in Beverly. We farm on 1 acre at New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, and we grow a diverse mix of vegetables, cut and edible flowers, medicinal and culinary herbs. Tonight, I want to talk to you about my connection to the land. After many years of working in the hospitality industry as a chef, I was struck by the fact that we received produce from places very far away. And it got me interested in growing food and how that process works. I still remember the moment we received a case of young green beans, and on the case it said product of South Africa. It made me wonder about the economics of growing a green bean in South Africa and its journey to a chef in Boston. How could that possibly work? All this curiosity led me to a season-long apprenticeship at the Urban Farming Institute in Boston. And after that experience, my whole relationship to the land changed. I feel a common bond between farm work and work in the kitchen. I've always enjoyed nourishing people through my cooking, and growing food for people has the same spirit.
And I'm Anna Pierce-Slive, the other half of Revival Road Farm. While Cedric's journey took him from inside the kitchen to outside in the field, my journey started in the soil. After some years of working in trauma response and healing, both internally and supporting other people on their path, I had the opportunity to participate in a farm apprenticeship at the retreat center I was living and working at. One of the very first foundational lessons was building this huge, massive compost pile. We worked tirelessly through the day, shoveling food scraps, really gross food scraps, shredding cardboard, wheelbarrowing mulch and hay, and built this huge pile that was just radiating heat. We were all completely covered in dirt and sweat and started packing our things for a lunch break, but before we left, the instructor stopped us and invited us to lie down on top of the pile. Already filthy, I said, what the heck? Climbed up onto the pile with some help because it was taller than me, laid down, closed my eyes, and immediately began to cry. In all my years of therapeutic work, I had never been so held. The compost pile asked nothing from me and in turn completely embraced and supported me. From that moment on, my life was forever changed. Since that farming season, 15 farming seasons ago, I know we look good, but we've been doing it a while, I have never felt apathetic again. Being able to farm motivates me and us every day. Our approach to farming at Revival Road is to take care of the soil first. If we have rich, dark, biologically alive soil, the plants just express that abundance. If we have depleted, toxic, degraded soil, the plants express that disease. So Cedric and I at Revival Road truly feel that our primary job, our first job, is to be soil stewards.
So next, I want to talk about the myth of the expert. Since I started farming, I've always grown greens and love growing greens because I love eating them and cooking them. I thought I had become pretty good until this past season, when a host of pests we had never even heard of began decimating our crop. We lost a wave of kale and collard greens in the spring that were unprotected, and had to do some extensive research to find a new solution. We eventually landed with a new crop protection method we hadn't used in the past, and thankfully, we were able to grow a great greens crop in the fall. Nature always has new lessons for you to learn.
One lesson that we learn over and over again is using resources that are within our local food system. So again, our primary focus is not the plants, but the soil. And one way we support the health and growth of our soil is using a lot of mulches. So mulches are materials that protect your soil from erosion, keep moisture in, reduce weeds, and feed the soil at the same time. And we're really lucky in Beverly to be close to a great natural local mulch that's called salt marsh hay. We purchase bales just 15 minutes north in Newberry and spread the hay in our fields. This hay is the perfect mulch. It holds all these great micronutrients from the ocean, completes all the functions of other mulches, and we get to support a different kind of local farmer tending to the shoreland. We are very grateful for the opportunity to share our love for farming and our passion for creating a more resilient food system. We truly do hope to stay in touch with all of you and hope you walk the Revival Road with us.
Sure make me think about dirt.
I know, I sometimes play in the dirt, but I don't think about it too much.
So if I give the dirt compost, it grows better food?
Yes, leftovers and cooking scraps can turn into compost, and then that turns into great soil, which then helps grow great food.
I'll be sure to never throw away a rotten carrot again, because it means better fresh carrots in the future.
It's like one big cycle, and I want to help with that.
Dirt isn't just dirt. It's alive, and it needs to be fed. The next time I go hiking, I'm going to look at the dirt in a new way. It's like a friend.
Me too. Maybe we'll see some earthworms.
Food resilience? I never heard of that.
Me neither, but like Cedric, I want Beverly to know about food resilience.
So if there are any weather problems in parts of the world, we can still have tomatoes, lettuce, and apples?
And watermelons and peaches. Also, I like supporting people around here. When we go to a farmer's market, we're not only supporting the farmer, but everyone the farmer does business with.
It's great to know the farmer who grows your strawberries, like Anna and Cedric. I can't wait to go talk to my mom and dad about this.
Well, I'll probably see you at the farmer's market.
You'd bet. Bye!
And there's more.
Wow, this makes me curious. What if people don't have enough money to buy local produce? What do you do then?
That is a very real issue, and we have the perfect person to talk about that.
Wow, you are very organized, you know.
Well, you know, us Macoun Apples, we have special skills. So tonight, we have someone from Salem Pantry, Madison Teetons. Madison, you ready?
Here's Madison.
We got a mic.
Hi everyone. I want to thank everyone so much for being here. I'm Madison. I'm the TerraCore service member here at the Salem Pantry. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to CJ Hughes from New Hall Fields Community Farm for working with me on this presentation. So tonight I'm going to tell you the story of how some onions planted last year ended up at the Salem Pantry. But first, let's start at the beginning. Newhall Fields Community Farm is a nonprofit 2-acre regenerative farm located in Peabody. Its mission is to provide healthy food for families facing food scarcity. Newhall Fields actively engages the community through seasonal volunteer sessions and workshops that not only promote physical wellness, but also strengthen connections among neighbors. With the support of over 300 committed volunteers in 2024, Newhall Fields grew nearly 12,000 pounds of food, with plans to increase production annually. The farm successfully implements a seasonal CSA-style SNAP and HIP eligible farm share program and delivers 70% of its produce directly to local hunger relief partners, which includes the Salem Pantry. As a registered United Plant Savers Botanical Sanctuary, the farm features an exceptional perennial herb garden and herb drying program. Overall, approximately 75% of the farm's produce and herbs make their way to low and moderate income families across the North Shore. And this is where the story of our onions begins. These seeds were planted in last March, where they began germinating in the seed trays. From there, they were moved into a greenhouse in April, planted by volunteers in the garden in May, and here they are growing in the garden in June. On the left, you'll see the onions freshly harvested and washed on site in July, and the right shows them being cured as storage onions in August. Pretty lengthy plant. Now where I come in. The Salem Pantry is transforming the North Shore's food system by providing fresh, free, and healthy food through mobile pantries, home delivery, the market, a dynamic food distribution hub. By combining direct service with collaborative partnerships, the Salem Pantry ensures convenient and equitable access to nutritious food throughout the region. The market sees the majority of our guests, despite only being open for less than 30 hours over 5 days a week. The layout allows for a dignified experience that is similar to a grocery store, where guests can shop like they would in a typical grocery store. The farmer's market style truck allows the pantry to bring food to other locations across the North Shore. Each mobile pantry is unique and typically runs for an hour, with some serving over 100 guests in that time frame. The Salem Pantry also offers a home delivery service to guests who are homebound and are unable to travel to one of our markets. Overall, the Salem Pantry serves about 1,900 families a week. We have about 150 two-hour volunteer shifts every week, and the work our volunteers do is crucial to ensure everyone has access to fresh, healthy food. But now let's get back to the real star of the show, our onions. The onions were put out at the market in October of 2024. Fresh produce from community partners like Newhall Fields rarely lasts more than a day there. Now, let's see where it gets to. This map shows all of the guests who visited the market the day the onions were put out. Salem guests are centered in the point where the market is located, but as you can see, the reach goes far beyond that, into Lynn, Swampscott, Marblehead, Beverly, and beyond. The work of... Just wanted to thank everyone again, and as usual, hold questions until the end.
Madison is my hero. I can't believe how many people the Salem Pantry feeds. It's amazing!
I know, and she makes it easy to help out.
Really? What do I have to do?
Just sign up at the Salem Pantry website for a 2-hour slot.
What kind of things do volunteers do?
Well, they work at markets, deliver food to warehouses, and even do some clerical work.
Cool! And the link to volunteer will be available with the QR code?
Exactly.
I'm surprised how widespread the Salem Pantry's impact is.
Yes, they help people across the entire North Shore.
Yes, and it's not just people with a lower income. It's also working parents who just need a bit of extra help getting their kids nutritious food to eat.
expensive, and there's no shame in getting help to buy it.
Thank goodness for the Salem Pantry then.
Exactly.
I have a feeling there's going to be another brilliant speaker coming up.
And you would be right.
And who are we going to have next?
Carrie Murphy from the Salem Health Department.
What's she going to talk about?
Well, you've heard about the importance of food policy. She's going to share what's going on with that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Carrie,
Carrie, you ready? Is there a Carrie in the house? Losing weight.
I'm losing my apple.
Thank you, everybody. My name's Carrie. I'm a registered dietitian. I work for the City of Salem as a health and wellness coordinator, and I also staff the city's Food Policy Council. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about food policy, why it's so important, and also how you can all become advocates for policies and programs that are important to you. You may not realize it, but federal, state, and even local food policies can affect the food choices that we make every day. Here we go. Federal policies like the Farm Bill can influence what types of foods farmers can grow. State policies include incentives programs that make local fresh foods affordable for people who use SNAP. And city and town policies can dictate where we shop by deciding where food can be sold and who can sell it. Food policy can also help improve food security by providing funding to food pantries, making school meals free for all students like we have here in Massachusetts, and even by allowing food that might otherwise go to waste to be donated to people who need it. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what a Food Policy Council is and what we do. A Food Policy Council is a group of people who come together to improve a community's food system. We can work at the state, regional, and the local level, and they might work as part of city government, as part of nonprofits, or even as independent coalitions made up of concerned community members. Now, the Salem Food Policy Council has been working for about 10 years to make sure healthy, affordable food is accessible to all Salem residents, as you can see by our mission statement. So, part of our work is to engage with the Salem community and really find out what the community wants and needs. And then we make recommendations to our elected officials, like our mayor and our city council. So our first project was the 2018 Community Food Assessment. We spent about 2 years surveying residents, local businesses, food assistant organizations, looking at community health and food security data, and some of the findings that we made were that residents have a hard time finding affordable fresh produce close to their homes. There's a strong interest in community agriculture, but space restrictions have prevented the expansion of our community gardens. And that Salem's zoning ordinance makes it hard for people who want to be farmers to earn a living in Salem. So one of the recommendations that we made was to use city land to grow food for the community. And this resulted in the creation of the Mack Park Farm. This was started back in 2019. Our first growing season was spring of 2020. It's a community farm at a city park. We grow thousands of pounds of food each season that's given out for free to the community. We have free farmers markets, and we also donate about half of it to the Salem Pantry. We do this with the help of community volunteers who come each week, all ages and backgrounds, and help with all aspects of the farm. So if this is something that interests any of you, we have information here tonight on how you can sign up. And I will say it's a lot of fun, and you get to take home some food. And one of the ways we changed city policy was to amend our zoning ordinance to make it easier for people to sell food and to encourage people to grow their own food. So we did this by easing restrictions on commercial farms and by allowing residents who keep bees and chickens to be able to sell eggs, honey, and also for people who grow their own food to be able to sell the fresh produce from their homes. And one of the organizations that we work closely with is the Massachusetts Food System Collaborative.
They're an organization that works at the state level to advocate for state policies and programs to support local farms and food systems. They also do a great job of bringing food policy councils from all over the state together, where we can share our work, share best practices, and really align the work that we're doing. They also do advocacy trainings, where they teach us how the state legislature works, how to reach out to our state senators and state representatives, and keep us informed of what important food policy bills are before the state legislature. And you can find all of this information on their website, which you can see at the bottom, massfoodsystem.org. And these are examples of 2 bills that are currently before the state legislature. One is called an act relative to the Healthy Incentives Program, or HIP. This is a really important bill because it benefits both SNAP users and farmers. People who use SNAP, when they purchase food directly from farmers, they get some money credited back onto their EBT cards. And funding for this bill was cut this past fall, so we've been working with the Mass Food System Collaborative, reaching out to our state reps and state senators to get them to support putting the funding back into the program. Thank you. So we do have a lot of advocates here in the room. And many school districts have farm-to-school programs where schools buy food from local farms that they serve in their cafeterias. This next bill, an act to promote food literacy, would extend that into classrooms so the kids are learning about where their food comes from and about local food systems. So this is a very important one too. And this is the most important part, how you can be an advocate. You can get involved by joining a food policy council or even helping to create one if your city or town doesn't have one. But you can also advocate as a concerned community member. And our elected officials have so many decisions to make on so many different topics, it's impossible for them to be experts on all of them. So they really rely on us as community members to keep them informed and to share what we see happening in our communities, in our schools, and how policies affect us and why they're important to us. And so it can be intimidating reaching out to elected officials, but there are a lot of resources to help. I mentioned the Massachusetts Food System Collaborative website. There's also masslegislature.gov that you can look at to find your state legislator and also how to reach out to them. You can contact them by email. You can organize a postcard writing campaign. You can even call them on the phone. You may reach one of their aides who are really helpful in relaying information, and they're also really important to build relationships with. So lastly, some general advocacy tips. Choose an issue you care about and really research it. And if you can get it, it's always helpful if you can share some data. Learn about the elected official you're reaching out to. You can follow them on social media, you can sign up for their newsletters, go hear them speak at events, and also learn about other bills that they're sponsoring or co-sponsoring. And when writing to a state legislator, always remember to use your full name and address so they know you're a constituent. And reference the bill number that you're supporting. Like with an act to promote food literacy, you would use the number starting with SD if you're reaching out to a state senator, or HD if you're reaching out to one of the representatives. Be specific and concise. Let them know really what you're asking and why. And this obviously always follow up with a thank you, especially if they're doing the things that you've asked them to do. But most importantly is not to give up. I mean, it can take several tries, you may get a no the first time, but especially as you collect more data on the cause you're supporting, you can always reach back out. So thank you for listening. I hope you can all use some of the resources we shared tonight to be an advocate in your own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Murphy, for everything you do. I wonder if there's anything I can do as a citizen.
There is. Carrie reminds us that we can go to the Massachusetts Food System Collaborative website. They list out all the latest food legislation. Once you decide what changes you want, contact your legislator to voice your support. It's really that simple.
You mean an email or a phone call makes a difference?
Absolutely. Just click on this evening's QR code to find the Massachusetts Food Collaborative website URL.
Great. Thanks again, Carrie. I'll be sure to tell my parents. And didn't you say something about a food council?
Yes, your town might have a food council, but it might not.
And anyone can be part of it?
If you're of voting age, yes, you can be part of it. Or you can start one yourself if your town doesn't have one.
Great. When I'm old enough, I will join one and give the mayor some great ideas and information about the local food system.
Exactly. For now, you can just let your parents know.
Wow, that was so much to learn in one evening, and wonderful, wonderful speakers. But I have a question for everybody tonight, and that is, who exactly can change the food system?
We can!
I'm sorry, I wasn't real. What was that again? Who can change it?
We can!
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and I gotta say that make sure you get one of the bookmarks with the QR code, and you'll be able to go on that and check out everything and find out what else you can do better.
Yes, and one of our team members, Christina Olsenberg, has created a gorgeous webpage that makes all the data that you heard about tonight really easy to access. Just use the QR code and you're really good. So let's give it up for the kids and the speakers. Burning questions, we are now going to transition for a couple minutes or so to a Q&A panel, so hold on to your seats.
And before we go, I just want to say a big thank you to Christina
and Tony Toledo.
Hello everyone, I'm Lily Ducharme.
And I'm Nina Orlando. We are two students from Beverly High School, a part of the Marketing and Business program known as DECA.
We have decided to work with Green Beverly for our project because as we're doing research for what organization we wanted to work with, we really admired Green Beverly's involvement in the community.
We wanted to support Green Beverly through raising funds for them. In fact, all the proceeds from the raffle we organized out front will go towards and support their future projects. We also just wanted to let everyone know that the raffle will be open for another 10 minutes or so.
After the Q&A. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for coming tonight. It's been a wonderful program, so thanks again to all of our actors and apples and everyone who came. My name is Brett Otis. I'm a Beverly resident and a Green Beverly volunteer and coordinator of the North Shore Farm and Food Coalition. Our coalition is a growing group of farms, city representatives, food organizations, small businesses, educational institutions, and training programs here in Beverly, Salem, Lynn, Peabody, Danvers, and other communities around the North Shore. So our three panelists who are just joining me on stage again, Carrie, Jennifer, and CJ, are all represent current members of the coalition, and then we have a bunch of other coalition members in this room. So over the past 2 years, we've been collecting a lot of data, collaborating to identify opportunities and develop actions for more local food, in a nutshell. Some of our highlights of our work are featured on the table in the lobby, so if you missed that on the way in, feel free to check it out when you head out. And please be sure to take our resident survey. We want to hear from all of you. It's available through the big QR code on the bookmark. So, engaging with our community is central to our work, and tonight's event, especially this Q&A session, is another opportunity to do just that. As you heard from the apples and student performers, we all have a role to play in strengthening our local food system. So before we begin, just a few notes as you prepare your questions and line up to the microphone to ask your questions. We covered a lot of ground tonight, but our food system is quite complex, as we've heard. Additionally, the topic of food tends to be quite personal. It's wrapped up in our values, our experiences, and our traditions. So all to say, there's no bad questions, but let's all be considerate of everyone's starting point navigating the nuances of our food system. However, a friendly reminder that questions do end in a question mark, so when you get to the microphone, please be sure to be as concise as you can. We want to get through as many questions as possible. Up on stage, we'll do our best to answer your question, and we also have some folks that are working hard in our local food system here in the front rows of the audience. We heard from Anna and Cedric, and we have Essex County Greenbelt over there. I'm sure there are some others spread around, so if any of you want to answer a question, just flag me and I'll make sure a mic gets over to you. Finally, if we run out of time or you prefer to submit your question on paper or in writing, just flag a volunteer in the aisle. They have some note cards and pencils and they'll bring it over. And if you would like a direct response, please put your contact information on there and we'll be sure to get back to you. So with that, we look forward to taking your questions. Whoever wants to go first. So the microphone's right over there if you want to head over to... I can run.
Do we have to go to college to be a farmer?
That is an amazing question. Thank you for asking that. No, you do not have to go to college to be a farmer. Anyone can be a farmer who is excited about growing seeds and planting crops to grow. I think there is a lot to learn, so I would definitely say trial and error is a good way to do it, but I think there's a lot of things you can learn about, but you don't have to have a college degree.
I have a bunch of questions, so I will start asking if we don't hear from anyone else. Maybe one to get us started. I'm a resident of Beverly. I'm looking to maybe start a backyard garden. I'm worried that my soil might have some contamination issues. I don't really know what's going on there. What steps do I take and where would I start?
Well, if you really wanted to get after it, you could get a soil test. But what a common thing to do would be to build a raised bed garden. So you can, use just 4 pieces of wood and create sort of a raised box and fill that with compost, soil, leaf mulch, or chips to sort of build it up. And then you can go from there, and then you can put a layer down to make sure if you're really concerned that your soil is contaminated, make sure there's like a barrier underneath. But one thing to look out for, raised bed gardens usually dry out a little faster, so I'm going to do some additional watering. And yeah, just make sure you take care of that soil as the seasons go on. You can keep it covered over the winter, and or consult your neighbor or your local farmer too, and to get some good advice.
Thank you, CJ. Great. Do we have another question?
This is not something that you can really find an answer for right away, but one of the things that concerns me is I keep hearing from people that come out of new entry and other people that want to grow farms, that want to start farms, is the lack of available and affordable land in our area. And I'm really frustrated because I keep seeing like herb farmers moving out to the western part of the state and not able to keep it in our neck of the woods. And I just am wondering if there's any solutions or any ways to figure out how to deal with this.
I'll just say our new entry program, we're really an incubator farm program, so we offer all of our training courses and workshops and business planning and give people the opportunity to use the land that we have access to at Moraine Farm for up to 3 years to grow their business. But one of the biggest challenges is where do they go when they graduate from our program. And I think we try to partner with a lot of land trusts like Greenbelt and the trustees and others who are in the business of conserving land for agriculture. We also reach out to a lot of private landowners, people that have an extra acre, 2 acres, 5 acres that they're not using, that they might want to make available for farmers. I think the tricky part is farmers really do want to own the land because that helps them build wealth, it helps them have long-term security. People are putting so much love into the soil that to not have it be secure, we've had many examples of farmers that lease land from private individuals with these very insecure agreements and then have to start all over at the next location, which is really tricky and challenging. So I think it's something we all need to think about. In the last several years, there was a new program that the Biden administration put forward called Investing in Land, Capital, and Markets, which is unfortunately now under threat with this current administration. But that was the first time our federal government has really invested in policy to provide funding to purchase land and to invest in opportunities for future farmers to get access to land across the country. We're part of one of those projects with Agrarian Trust, who are developing agrarian commons across the country, which are collectively held pieces of land that provide some long-term security for farmers. So there are different models out there, but it is a really strong challenge that we face, and I don't think anyone has the perfect answer to at this point, aside from having federal funds to buy, protect, and sell land and keep it in farming over the long term. I don't know if you want to add anything, or Greenbelt wants to add anything.
I was actually going to ask you to a little more. Do you think that MDAR, the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture, their farmland action plan will also be helpful with this? Is that hopeful?
Yes, I do think it is very hopeful. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. But yes, we did just pass, we're one of the first states in the country to pass a farmland action plan, which has hundreds of recommendations, a lot of work streams for addressing land access in Massachusetts. And so we're just starting to think about what are the next steps in terms of implementing that. And so they've been doing a lot of listening sessions and getting partners that are going to be helping take ownership of implementing some of the recommendations for the plan. So I am hopeful that that will be something. And the Department of Ag, who is this, the state agency, they do own a lot of farmland. They've been carefully looking at their land leasing and licensing program to hopefully make that available. Like, we have our eyes on the Danvers State Hospital land, hoping we can get a chunk of that in the future when those licenses come up for renewal to have a landing place for some of our graduates nearby in the area. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully Greenbelt can find some property for farmers as well. So yeah, any and all opportunities we're excited about.
Yeah. Did Greenbelt want to add anything to this question? If you can give the microphone to Chris for a brief moment.
Thank you. Chris LaPointe, I'm president of Essex County Greenbelt. Just to tack on briefly to what Jennifer said, we're the Land Trust of Essex County. We do a lot of different things. We protect land for wildlife habitat and scenic resources and public outdoor recreation, but a major focus of our work is on protecting farmland. And so we're working to buy, protect, and sell land affordably to farmers. In some cases, we are able to purchase land and lease it on a long-term basis at an affordable rate, as we're doing with Iron Ox Farm in Hamilton and Topsfield. We are working to protect active farmland throughout the county, and the challenges that we face are really the need to work with landowners over a long period of time to build trust and get to know them and get them to know us, so they'll work with us on conservation plans. The challenges of funding, so for those of you who are taxpayers in your local communities, you might have Community Preservation Act or other mechanisms to help fund land conservation. That's critically important. So we're working as fast as we can. Other organizations like ourselves are doing the same thing. But farmland is under threat. It's readily developable. It's often the flattest, most readily converted land. So we're doing what we can. We appreciate those of you who support the work that we do. But certainly follow up with us. Check us out, ecga.org, to see what we're working on in the farmland space.
Thank you. Yes. And I'll just add briefly that Greenbelt has been a terrific partner within the coalition. They've been doing a lot of great work surveying empty or underutilized parcels around the North Shore, and are places that could potentially be growing spaces in the future. There's a lot of work to be done to assess any of those spaces, but again, on the map in the lobby, there's a little pinpoint map that shows just maybe what could be possible if there's investment and more looking into those spaces. So, great, I think we have another question.
Do you have to sign anything to be a farmer?
What do you mean by sign anything?
Like you have to sign a piece of paper to be a farmer.
No, you definitely don't have to sign a piece of paper, although it is important to make yourself known as a farmer. So one of the things that the government does every 5 years or so is they do an agricultural census. So they try to capture information about who is farming, your demographics, how much acreage, what kind of crops are growing, and that's really important so that we know how many people are growing our food and how they're interacting in the space, what they're growing, how much acreage, who's doing it, all those kinds of things, so that our census of agriculture also dictates how much funding comes to each state in terms of programming. So if we have farmers that are farming and we have a certain amount of allocation to Massachusetts, we want to make sure all those farmers are counted and that they're eligible for the programs that are available to them. So I think there are different ways that people count people as farmers. So if you are farming land that you want to put under Chapter 61A, the agricultural tax use status, there are certain income requirements that you have to use, so you would report that as part of those local programs. If you are wanting to be counted in the census, I think there's $1,000 a year gross revenue that counts you as a farmer for the United States Ag Census thing. But you don't have to sign anything to be a farmer. You just put seeds in the ground, you grow food, and presumably you may sell it or donate it or give it to other members of your community, and you can call yourself a farmer.
And you can sign up to volunteer at any of the organizations that we've heard from tonight. But yeah, it's great ways to get involved. So thanks for the question. Great. Is there another one somewhere?
Thank you so much for being here tonight. This is awesome. My name's Jen. I'm a Beverly resident, but I'm also involved in Three Sisters Garden Project, which is an amazing farm in Ipswich that's growing food for our neighbors and community members who want fresh food in a dignified way, kind of like the pantry in Salem. And we're actually working with Greenbelt because our farmland is currently threatened to find new space, and it's so challenging. So first of all, thank you so much, Greenbelt, for helping us find new space, hopefully, in the near future. I think the other thing that we find is sometimes in the room with individuals or local community government as we're trying to find new spaces, there seems to be a potential distaste for farmland going into neighborhoods or into areas that, because of the equipment or the potential infrastructure that's needed to grow the food, like porta potties or greenhouses. And I'm just wondering if there's opportunity, I'm probably answering my own question here, but to start to flip that script in a community setting to be attracted to seeing some of these amazing pieces of infrastructure that actually help us grow the food, that's gonna bring it local, that's gonna help our health, help our ecosystem. But if there's any information or language you think we could start using or talking about in that way, what settings are beneficial, I think just be curious how we could expand on that.
Well, that's definitely one of the things we've been trying to do in Salem, is to make urban agriculture and farming more hospitable to would-be farmers, and also get residents to understand that we need this business, we need our local farms, and you can do this in an urban community and still be good neighbors. We did pass an urban agriculture ordinance a couple of years ago in Salem, so I feel like we're on the right path. We still have some resistance, but there are a lot of other cities and towns doing the same thing. I would encourage you to look at our ordinance, and I would be happy to talk to you. There was a lot of relationship building we had to do with city council members, also just getting the community to see the benefits. And also putting in parameters of what can and can't happen in an urban farm. But for the most part,
especially, you know, with the protections that farms have, you should have a right to farm, meaning that general farm noise, smells, or other types of, farm practices, yes, thank you, should be allowed in any community, as you are providing a huge benefit. Did that answer your question?
Thank you, Carrie. Before, just one moment, because we have some really good questions that came in on paper, and I want to give those a chance, maybe just one, and then we'll go back to you. One question, what can we do in the winter to help farmers?
Well, I would say a lot more farmers locally are doing winter growing and year-round distribution of crops. So if you can grow a lot of root crops and storage crops, I mean, tonight we ate locally grown cabbage, carrots, onions, potatoes that were grown and harvested this fall and are stored under good storage conditions so that you can eat a local diet year-round. We just put up 3 new high tunnels at New Entry, so we can be growing greens year-round with a climate battery system, which is a ground-to-air heat transfer system that stores warm air underneath the soil and then brings it up during the evening. So more farmers are doing season extension, cold storage of their crops, and we have winter farmers markets. There's pop-up markets that happen on the North Shore. So there are winter CSA shares that you can join. So I would say there's a lot of opportunity. I'm also a big dehydrator and canner. So because there's so much abundance during the growing season, I love to put up food and make all my tomato sauce and all my jams and jellies and make my kimchis and fermented foods so that I can eat those things year round as well. So I think if you're really trying to source and eat food locally, if you look for it, there are plenty of opportunities to do that, and then take advantage of the abundance during the growing season so that you can put up as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I would encourage people to really get into eating with the seasons. I think that, a summer tomato that's grown locally is a completely different fruit than one that is maybe bought at the grocery store in the winter that doesn't, just like our apples maybe. And so I think, when you enjoy that stuff in the summer, and if you can put it away and you can, you can preserve it, then that's amazing. But it does taste a lot sweeter when the first strawberry comes around in the summertime.
Great, thank you, great tips. Go to our Granny Smith apple.
Don't you really think that Granny Smith apples are really the best?
Wait a second.
I'm sorry.
What kind of apple do you like?
Honey crisp, sorry. Any of the crisps.
I'm Team McCown. However it's pronounced in the room. Yeah.
I'm going with Jen on the Honey Crisp,
Sorry. But Granny Smith sometimes, don't worry about it. Do we have another question? Great.
How do you know if food from a grocery store is locally sourced?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
I think a lot of grocery stores, if they're going to the extra effort to source locally grown food, they usually will try to brag about it by putting signage saying this was sourced from a local farm and put their farm name and where it was grown, things like that. They would usually have a display. Otherwise, it's pretty hard with a lot of things that have a barcode on it. We used to have country of origin labeling, that kind of fell to the wayside, so it's really hard now to kind of know, unless it is labeled on a sticker on your fresh fruits and vegetables, where it comes from. So grocery stores are challenging. They buy in huge volumes, tractor trailer loads worth of vegetables, so most local farms aren't usually selling to large chain grocery stores or large grocery stores unless that grocery store is very committed to sourcing local food from their farms, and then they're probably going to make a big deal of it and have a special display around it. And if not, ask. I think that this is our opportunity. Like when you go into your grocery store, ask, are you buying local? Who are you buying from? I want to see more local in the produce section or wherever, the meat section, eggs, maple syrup. We have a lot of amazing products that we grow in Massachusetts and New England. And so if you ask for them and enough buyers hear that, hopefully they'll start to supply those things in your local stores where you shop.
Great, thank you. I'm going to do one more question here, and then we'll go right back to you. The question is, I'd like to know how to encourage local food access for people with low income and limited time and ability to cook. For example, frozen broccoli is easier to cook and cheaper than fresh broccoli at the farmer's market.
That's a great question. Yeah, I think there are local companies doing frozen foods. I know there is a company called Family Dinner that is based in Woburn, and it is a CSA, and it's all different. It's not just vegetable CSA. You can choose your protein, and they have add-ons, and it's all locally sourced. And I know they have specifically sourced, that exact example, they have sourced local, like, flash frozen broccoli. So I think it might just take a little more research. But I think also sort of expanding your mind and how some vegetables can be prepared. A block of frozen spinach definitely is fairly easy to cook, but you can just take a whole, bag of local spinach and dump it in the pan, and it's fairly similar cooking time, I think. Maybe even faster, I don't know. So I think if you kind of get creative with maybe you're batching your own stuff and freezing your own things, and sort of just taking, more of a planning. At least that's what helps me. I need to plan in the kitchen, certainly. And when I have things that maybe are a little more challenging, I sort of get it all over with in one, and so I have it ready and batched for later.
That's a great tip.
We have a great grocery store in Salem called the Daily Table that I don't know how much of it is locally sourced, but they have a lot of really healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables, very affordable prices, same with frozen meats and seafoods. And I would say too, like, beans and legumes are a great protein source that you can put with all kinds of vegetables, very affordable, and that's always something I recommend when people are asking about affordable protein sources. A bag of lentils can, is pennies per meal, and they don't go bad, and you can keep them in your pantry forever.
Delicious as well. Awesome. Thank you. Do you have something else?
I also wanted to mention some trying to seek out in your community places that take SNAP or HIP. I know the Healthy Incentive Program was mentioned by Carrie, and they have a great map that tells you where you can go to access more affordable produce.
Great, thanks for your patience. I'll go to the next question.
What is the quickest and easiest crop to grow on a farm?
Weeds. But probably a radish, I think, is one of the most quickly growing vegetable, and it also is like fairly low inputs. So you do need, one radish seed becomes one radish, so you do kind of need a lot of seeds, but they grow really fast, and they still taste good when they get pretty big, maybe not like too big. And you can do a lot with them. You put them in salad, and they're delicious. So I would think radish might be my pick.
The next question is, I was just wondering what the nearest farm, or the grocery store, that you could buy the crops at. What is the closest to Beverly?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear your question. You said at the grocery store, the closest.
No, I'm
farm?
the farm, closest to Beverly. If I wanted to pick up crops, where would I go?
Yeah, so New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, we're right here at Moraine Farm in Beverly. We don't have a farm stand on the property, but we have a community-supported agriculture program, so folks can join that and get a weekly share of fresh produce at the farm. I don't know if there are other farm stands that are open year-round. I know there are some in the area. I think on one of the listings on the QR code bookmark, there are probably listings of the local farm stands that would have, that are open at different times of the year with fresh, locally grown produce.
I didn't farm, by the way. I meant something else, but I just didn't know how to pronounce it.
That's great. No, it's a great question. Thank you.
Do you make money, say if you sell your crop to another person and then they sell it to another person? Like do you still make money?
That's a great question. So you should join our business planning course. That sounds like you have a good mind for business. But I think what we try to teach our farmers is how to understand their cost of production. Like if you're going to sell something that you grew, you need to know how much money you have invested in that product. So it doesn't then matter if you sell it to someone and then they want to resell it to someone and they want to resell it. Like you've gotten the money that you need to be profitable for your own costs. But sometimes farmers don't like to keep records. They have a lot of things going on. They're trying to manage a million different things in the ecosystem, so it's hard to keep track of like their time and all the costs and like allocate how much all that costs to one crop. But farmers that are really good at it know their cost of production and they make money when they make that sale, even if that next person is going to sell it. You as the consumer might be paying more the more people touch that, the more that you have middle layers between the farmer and purchase point. So that's where on that dollar bill sign we showed, sometimes farmers only make a little bit of money because there's a lot of layers between them and you as the consumer.
Thanks for the question. Just one moment before we get to yours. This is one that is for Mac Park specifically, but it's one I think New Hall Fields can answer as well. Are schools engaged in helping at the farm as a field trip as part of a food literacy course or part of the education system?
Yes, we do host schools for field trips. We've had elementary school, middle schoolers. We have a group from Salem State that comes every year for their day of service. And we also have high schoolers who work through the Salem YMCA's Green Space program. They also work part-time for the Mac Park Farm through Salem High School. So they get paid internships through Mass Hire. So we are very involved with the youth development.
Yeah, we have a similar thing going on in Peabody. We host field trips, we host team building days, community service days for schools and some of the universities. We hire a youth crew in the summertime. Those are high school aged interns that also get paid. So yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities to come out to the farm and certainly learn a lot of things. We have some of our infrastructure on the farm is built by young students, a class from Deborah Waring made our clock perches for pest control, and so there's all kinds of ways to get involved on and off the farm.
Thanks for your patience. We'll go to you now.
Are there different kinds of farmers, like vegetable farmers and fruit farmers, or are they all just the same thing?
I think every farmer is different, but yes, there are many different types of farmers. I'm a vegetable farmer. There are dairy farmers, and there are fruit farmers. They work in orchard. What other types of farmers?
Mushroom farmers.
Mushroom farmers,
I'm
yeah.
a chicken farmer, so I raise chickens for eggs and meat and turkeys and pigs and grass-fed beef and lambs and goats, and we used to do rabbits.
Livestock farmers. Hydroponic farmers. Herb farmer, herbalist, yeah.
Flower farmers, we have lots of people that grow beautiful flowers.
Lots of variety. That's great. Thank you. One more question here that someone wrote in. Tell us more about the climate in Massachusetts and some crops that are good to grow here and some that are not. We're so used to such a bounty in our grocery stores, but not all those things are grown around here at any time of the year, so.
Yeah, some examples, can you repeat?
Maybe some examples that are good to grow here, I think is.
Oh yeah, well, I could certainly give you a great list, but a way, if you want to really remember this, and I'm a really visual person, is that when it's farmer's market season, if you go to the farmer's market, what's being sold generally is what you can grow here. New England, right? We have pretty cold winters, so there are certain things that don't grow well here, like an avocado or bananas, yes. It also depends on what kind of infrastructure you have. So things that you can grow easily that do well in the cold. So things like kale and collard greens and
like lots of lettuce and greens like spinach. We can go cucumbers and summer squash and a lot of different types of things. But I think if you want to grow things that require a little bit of a longer season, you could do that if you had infrastructure. So if you had what we call a high tunnel or a low tunnel, or something that is going to create a warmer environment that you have a little more control over. You have more control over the water, the irrigation, and the temperature and the ventilation. So if you have, so a lot of farms do have those structures, and they can grow things a little earlier. They can grow things that require a little later. So things like ginger or turmeric or really spicy peppers. So plants like that have longer days to maturity can grow in those structures. But if you're just growing outside, you might run into some trouble in the beginning and in the end of the season.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for maybe one more question. If you want to go ahead and ask it, and if you have maybe a question together.
Can farmers have multiple jobs on the farm? Like,
multiple jobs on the farm, or multiple jobs in addition to farming?
on the farm.
Oh, sure. I feel like there's a great cartoon I love that I like to show in my presentations sometimes, but it's basically this farmer with a hat on looking at a wall of hats. Because, you know, at any given point in time, a farmer is doing 30 different jobs, either in succession or simultaneously. You know, they're being the soil scientist, they're being the meteorologist, they're being the harvester, they're being the marketer, they're being the social media expert, they're, you know, running a crew, they're the labor manager. I mean, they're doing so many different jobs all the time. I think that's one of those super exciting things about farming, is that there's never a moment to be bored, and you're never gonna stop learning. Because every season is different, you're gonna have new challenges. We heard from Anna and Cedric, like, there's new pests, there's new weeds, there's new diseases, there's new crops you wanna try, new varieties, and Mother Nature just does her thing. So it's a constant learning process, and so you get to wear many hats and have many different jobs. That's what makes it a fun career. So,
excellent.
I love it.
Thank you, thanks for the question. I think to close out, I'll just ask each of you to give your one key takeaway. We have all these excellent resources and tips on the QR code, but if you want the audience to leave with one thing tonight, each of you, just feel free to share it now.
Let me start. I guess my key takeaway was that you all have a voice, and to definitely get involved, find out what's important to you, and you know, support the cause. So, thank you all for coming tonight.
I would just say your choices really matter. And so, yeah, you have agency over what you feed yourself every single day, multiple times a day. And so you can really change the system by your actions. So you have agency in that. And I hope that you learn a lot tonight and can take some steps, even if it's just a little bit every day or once a week or something. Making those changes will add up over time if collectively we all do that. So, yeah, I encourage you to all think about that.
My passion, I think, is just kind of, growing your own food or eating food that was grown by maybe someone you know or someone nearby is one of the most revolutionary things you can do. And I think that you can start small and, you know, don't be afraid to fail.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your great questions. Thanks for our panelists. I'll invite the lead up for the session.
I mean, is there anyone who's not inspired right now? Holy moly. Thank you, everybody. Technically, this concludes our program. However, the raffle, as you learned from Lily and Nina, was so popular that by request, it will stay open a few more minutes after the program, probably 10 or so minutes. So if you haven't gotten the raffle ticket in yet and you're interested, please, now's your time. They'll be calling out names before the end of this evening. I'm not sure if they'll do it over at the raffle area or here. I guess just stay tuned. But if your name is called and you're not here, it's fine. They will follow up with you. So no worries about that. Feel free to mingle for a while longer. If there's any food left, feel free to eat. Just be sure you find that bookmark and put it in your pocket. Like we said, there's a lot going on this website, thanks to Christina Olsenberg. One last word, Green Beverly is perpetually seeking support to keep events like Food Fight accessible to our whole community. If you liked what you saw tonight, please visit the Green Beverly table at the back to learn what it means to become a sustaining member or some other creative way to get involved as a supporter. So that's it for us. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Hope everybody has a great night.